Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the presentation today in our COVID-19 Aged Care series presented by Bentleys. I'm Hasi. I'm the Associate Director in our Innovation, Technology and Strategic Advisory team, and I will be a moderator today. As we know, the impacts of the COVID-19 crisis are being felt on every level, but for those in aged care especially, it creates a different layer of challenges and risks that comes along with it. The aged care sector requires support and assistance not only to survive the current crisis, but also to actually build upon it and actually build a better future too. So this webinar series is designed to provide advice on how aged care providers can navigate this crisis, especially through innovation, technology, and strategy. Today's presentation will be a guide on communication tools that's out there in the current market, and also how they can be utilized actively to mitigate some of the risks in the current crisis as well. Our presenter is Greg from hayylo, who's also the co-founder and also the winner of Bentleys Care Factor Incubator in 2019. So welcome, Greg. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
That's all right. So Greg will be talking to us about what hayylo does and what it can do for the aged care providers. But before I hand over to you, Greg, I want to quickly set the scene in terms of strategic thinking for the providers given the current climate and the crisis. While it is unprecedented times that we live in, unfortunately, but it is also important to acknowledge that this is a disruption to our commercial thinking, as we've never seen before. Many businesses are making drastic changes to their business models. For example, dining restaurants are now takeaway only, or they're drive-throughs, or they're delivery only. Even distilleries are actually mass producing hand sanitizers or even cleaning product to help out the cause. And also even the school environments or the learning environments becoming more online platforms. So how can aged care providers respond in a similar manner to the current crisis and also adopt the change in mindset and also innovate their business models to respond to the crisis at hand now and also build a future that's actually sustainable? So with that, I want to sort of quickly run through a strategic planning tool that we proactively use for these kind of exercises, which is around a concept called business model canvas. So the business model canvas is essentially 9 building blocks of a business model. In the middle, we have the value proposition, which is actually the value that you provide to your clients or customers, and which is the customer segments that is to your right, where with the channels that you actually have built over time to reach out to your clients and build those customer relationships. And to the bottom, you have the revenue streams where you actually generate the revenue based on the value that you provide to your customers or clients. And to your left, we have the key activities and the key resources that you require to fulfill those values that you need to generate the revenue activities, and also the key partners and the cost structures that's embedded within the business model itself. What the canvas allows you to do is actually map out the basic building blocks within your business and also figure out is there different methods you can reach out to your customers, create different channels of revenue, and even actually reduce cost structures to create, ultimately find efficiencies within your revenue. I won't go into a lot of detail with regards to the business model canvas, but ultimately what we would encourage all providers to think about is the innovation of the business model to respond to the current crisis. For example, your current value proposition might be around trust and quality of care. So given the current crisis, how can they actually transform the existing business into a more of a holistic well-being and a care experience kind of a business model that will build on the current crisis, but also create a sustainable business practice? This is where hayylo will really come in handy, because especially within the mission that you look to connect care recipients, the families, and also the care providers as well. So Greg, can you give us a bit of an outline of what hayylo does and how can providers actually utilize hayylo in mitigating some of the risks and actually building a bigger and a better future as well?
Thanks, Hasi. Thanks for having us here today. And you're right, these times that we're in are very challenging for everyone. As you can see here, it's even changed the way we're delivering this kind of information to our people and our customers. So just before I start, one thing that I'd like to extend on is the business model canvas that Hasi was showing is something that runs in the day-to-day life of hayylo or any young and innovative company. Because when we're looking for new ways to drive value into our organization, that tool provides such a great framework for us to use to be able to find new ways to look at the same problems that we've had and how we may want to solve them. So we've worked with Hasi in the past to run our business through those models, and it gives us a really great opportunity to look at things in a new light. So as Hasi mentioned, my name's Greg Satur. I'm one of the co-founders of hayylo. Today, I'm going to give you a little bit of a high-level overview around hayylo, what it is, some of the work that we do, and some of the value that it provides, not only now, but when you look at what's happening due to this crisis in a longitudinal manner and how it's going to change the future of work for us. There are some great things that a lot of groups around the country are doing to address that now, set a great foundation for the future for their business model. So I'd like to share with you a presentation. So at a high level, hayylo is a customer experience platform. I'll show you what that is through this presentation at a high level. I'm going to keep it really light, but what I really want to share is some of the work that groups have been doing and are doing today and paving the way for the future. So to set the stage, as you will know, things have changed drastically for all of us. As an example, video conferencing like this has become the new standard for communication. At hayylo, around 95% of all conversations we have are like this, are video-based, and it's a way for us to interact with each other, especially as these social distancing measures are in place. What that means is customer expectations, family expectations, and your staff expectations around empowerment through information and communication are also changing rapidly. The key to all of this is information. Keeping people updated regularly in a number of different ways has proven to be a challenge for a lot of groups. This crisis came and hit us really, really hard, as with a lot of countries around the world, and it's forced a lot of groups in response to this to think about how they communicate in and amongst themselves and with the communities around them. Something really interesting is that there is such a lot of information out there today. Over 80% of all the information in the media is around the coronavirus today, and it makes sense. It's a big global pandemic that we're all facing. But the key to this is there's so much information out there today, and it can be confusing. And what's relevant to me may not be relevant to your customers or their family members. So people are looking for information that's in context with the situation they're in. And questions like, can I visit my loved one? What happens when I can't? How do I get a message in there? And staff wondering, can I go to work? Should I go to work? So many questions out there, and then there's so much varying information that it's important to be able to share things from your organization with the people that you care about that support your business on a day-to-day basis. Communication is the key. One thing that we always say is we can't prevent things from going wrong, but what we can change is how we react when they do go wrong. And it's not just about when things go wrong, it's about when things go right. How do we celebrate the great moments? Communication is fundamental to all of that. And one thing that this challenge has really highlighted to us, especially with the work that we do, is that groups are now focusing on, okay, how do we communicate more easily, more fluidly? And you know what is the value of actually doing this? So I wanted to just take you into really quickly what are groups doing at the moment. And I'm going to show you some real life examples around some of the cool and innovative things that groups are doing that with the current conditions are becoming normal and are becoming the expectation for a lot of groups out there. Some key focus areas. So when we think about residential aged care and we think about the inability to visit people, we need to think about what happens and also with social distancing in community. There's a lot of isolation that's occurring. How do we talk to that? There's a lot of information and people are worried. Teams are concerned. It's resulting in increased absenteeism. How do we provide, how do we make sure our teams, which are the engine room for all of our organizations, feel more comfortable about what's going on and their ability to continue supporting your business, your customers, and also keeping their well-being in mind? The key to all of this is that implementing anything like a communication strategy is designed, as Hasi was talking about, to not only drive new models as we consider how to do things in the future, but it needs to optimize the way we're operating today. And that's a big focus for a lot of groups. So a lot of groups are saying, this has hit us. How should we consider communicating in a business as usual perspective moving forward? Because the world has really, really rapidly changed. So just a quick segue about hayylo. We're a digital platform. We're a digital communications platform purpose-built for aged care. We support around about 50,000 elderly customers a year, and it's a platform that helps you communicate with customers, teams, families, and the community around you via web, app technologies, SMS, phone, video. And the great thing about it is it connects into all of your existing tools that you guys have and systems and all your care systems that you use today to create a nice, seamless experience. The best thing about it is that it's a branded experience. So when your community around you are interacting with you, it's from your care organization, not some third-party technology tool. And that's important to build and continue your brand through these times as well, because that's a representation of the great work that you do. So a couple of the key things. Step one is empowering teams, and this is really, really important. So your teams are really busy, and even more busy than they have been in the past. There's a lot of big things being thrown at them: training materials, PPE guidelines, new policies and procedures that are in place. And without having that to hand easily and allowing your teams to consume it and have access to it, it's a real challenge. And a common scenario we see in residential is we'll have a support team member visiting a customer in their room. The customer may have an inquiry, they'll write it down on a post-it note that eventually makes its way back to the office at the end of the day. These are examples of how we can drive more efficiency in communication and enable people to communicate more instantly. So what we're looking at is the hayylo mobile app. So it's actually a screen from the worker experience. So imagine one of your team are visiting Wendy. She's in her room. They can open Wendy and they can see all these things about Wendy instantly. So number one, they can actually see a blurb about Wendy, and that could be written by the family. It could be added to by the family. It might even be written by Wendy herself. It's about context. In this era where there's more social isolation and distancing, we want to enable your teams to have that quick conversation with customers in a new fluid way. A great thing about this is that, you know, those post-it notes we were just talking about. Imagine your support team is with Wendy and she says, you know what, I'd like to speak to someone about this. I may need this, X, Y, or Z. Your team can just hit a button and that's automatically sent back to your fulfillment team or your nursing team or the food team. It's all about saying, you know what, the more we can provide, the more information we can provide our workforce to make their job easier and quick on the fly, the better our operation will run, because they'll actually have more time for the rest of the residents. So that's a really, really great thing to enable. Secondly, imagine your staff member is with Wendy and that she can instantly see that the family sent a message in. Because the families are concerned, they can interact through your support teams just quickly, and it doesn't have to be something that consumes a lot of time. It's just a quick note back to the family, and it's around being proactive, because what that does is it reduces all those calls that are coming in, which actually takes and consumes a lot of work from your teams. Not only do your support staff on the floor have this, but your head office and your office-based teams have it too, and they can communicate with all of the people that might have a health interest with Wendy. So hayylo creates what's called health teams, and you can invite in a GP, an allied health member, maybe some of those people that just can't get down to visit Wendy at the moment. And it's about having a chat in and amongst the people that support your customers. And this is a big part of hayylo, and it's really enabling that communication in and amongst your teams, customers, families, and the community at large. I think we've all come to see, and this is a great example because of the way we're doing this conversation today. Normally we'd come down to your office and we would have a chat, but video is connection now. You know, in a world where we can't get around, video has quickly become vastly accepted, vastly used. And I was chatting with a case manager late last week, and they were talking about the fact that their customers, it's now the exception, not the rule, that they're unhappy with video, meaning more people are happy to communicate via video now because they can see people and then interact. Now, not only is it great for social isolation, but we've seen a sharp rise in health professionals being unable to visit customers in facilities as well. Now, enabling the GP, the allied health specialist, the nutritionist, the dietitian to have a chat with your customers through your team is a really, really great way to continue that support for your customers. So an example of how this works is a lot of groups will have a shared iPad, right? And we know that a lot of groups have been purchasing them so that you can enable this conversation. Imagine your support staff walks in to see Wendy, they can hit a button and Wendy's got the iPad there and immediately she's talking with the family or a health professional. It's about thinking to enable it like that because we need to support elderly people, your customers, in terms of using this technology. And a great way that we've seen to do it is through your teams. Why not have your team press the button, set it up, and away you go. So this is a great way to not only reduce social isolation, but to continue your business and continue delivering the specialist health services that are required to support your teams. Now, when we go outside the walls of your organization, or the customers are inside, but there's also the family. And what we've seen is a huge increase in the number of calls from concerned family members. What's happening here? I can't visit now. What should we do? There's a huge desire for proactive information to be shared. So there's a whole range of reasons why people are calling, but people are concerned about their loved ones. And if you're proactive about communication, you'll actually, A, set people's minds at ease, customers and families. B, the phone will ring less and allows you to focus on your core business. And as resources are tight, it's something important that we've seen that groups have implemented and is providing them with some great value. One of the cool things that we do with hayylo is we're all about being proactive. And something that we have is a smart telephone number. So we give these smartphone numbers to our customers, and that becomes the main contact number for their office or their facility. And what happens is, imagine a family member calls. It'll automatically tell them, hey, did you know that visitation hours have changed? And you guys can change this proactive information at any time and in a really, really easy manner. So in the current situation where things are changing day to day, in the morning, you might have one of your team members record a little message, away it goes, and then your callers that are calling in, your family members, the concerned community, they're updated, and it puts their mind at ease, and it reduces some of those calls that will eventually come into your teams. Something great we've seen a group do, and Hasi, coming back to your comment around how groups are creating new innovative business models, wellness check-ins. So we've been implementing a few things where what the system does is it'll call around all your residents in the morning on their room phone, and it'll just check in to see how they're feeling. They could press 1 if they're good and 2 if they're not so good. You'll end up getting a dashboard showing you all your customers and how they're feeling. This is a really, really great way to reach people and ensure that your customers know you guys are thinking about them. In home care as well, we've implemented this at scale, and it calls people on their home phone, it checks in on them, and it can even provide that information to your staff, so your staff know when they're visiting a customer how they're feeling and any other concerns. It's such a great way to bring a personalized touch to your operation and enable new ways of delivering services. We can't forget the standard and the old types of communication processes and approaches. I can't believe I would say that they're old now, but SMS is still vastly used, and a lot of you guys will be using it to communicate with your teams and your customers and the community around you. Really important. It's great to keep that up and being proactive by saying, hey, why don't we pick everyone that's in these 3 facilities and then communicate with their family members? Or let's go and select everyone in these areas because we know there is a food shortage, or whatever it might be. Being able to segment your customers and then push out specific messages to them, their family members, and the wider community easily is a really big part of what we do. And it automatically tracks all the replies so that your team know exactly what people are concerned about, and you can answer them really, really easily. Doing things via SMS is vastly more efficient than doing them by phone, because your team can do more than one thing at a time. And that's a really important aspect around trying to drive even more efficiencies into your operations and to free up time for your teams. The key to any kind of crisis situation. And moving forward, we always have a mantra to come out in front of anything that is thrown at us is to be proactive and share information. The value of doing that essentially is you prevent a lot of calls from coming in, you reduce stress and anxiety on both sides of every party, workers, teams, customers and family members as well. Within hayylo, a great part of what we have and the centralized part of it is every customer has their own social feed. It's a visual feed where they can look at information sent out from your organization. Family members can see what's relevant to them and their loved ones in your facilities. Home care customers can see running updates around the team that's visited them. And a great use case that we've just seen is a group in Canberra actually sent this, packaged this up and gave it out to all their support staff members. So their support staff who get up in the morning can log in and they can see news from your organization because they feel connected. And this is starting to drive a reduction in anxiety for teams and making sure that they can continue to help you guys support your customers. So being proactive reduces calls and reduces some of the noise and allows your teams to get back to what they're doing and what they do really well, which is supporting people. Within home care, it's all about sharing transparency and visibility of information. Customers and family members can see the visits live. They can even see that Greg is coming to visit them and he'll be there in around about 15, 20 minutes. All of this proactive information and thinking drives optimization. It's all about saying, why don't we get in front of the questions that our customers, their families and our teams have and share some of that. And enabling that, a platform like this is really, really supportive of doing that in a really, really easy manner. So coming back to what Hasi was talking about at the beginning, in moments like this, we're seeing people do so many innovative things, and that's really, really great to see. You know, the fact that Hasi and I are delivering this conference to you guys like this is representation of that. You know, we're changing the way we work to support our customers and the community around us. And we're starting to see new models come out. So within hayylo, there's an activities and an offers engine. So whilst the activities may not be as relevant right now, what we're seeing groups do is say, you know what, everyone that's got a resident or a loved one in our facility, we're going to send this offer out to them. It might be for a pack of DVDs. It might be for a dinner special that they're putting on. And we're seeing groups drive new revenue through this. So within hayylo, family members can chip in to purchase things from your teams for your residents. And we're starting to see groups unlock this now as a way to drive other forms of revenue, but also more so for the customer, like sending a birthday wish and having that card come in and doing that as an offering. Families are taking that up and residents and customers feel more connected and less isolated. So it's about thinking about what types of things that you can offer your customers and the community around you, and remembering that the family members are such a vital part to all of this, and they want to be informed, they want to be involved, and when you can't physically be there, having a platform that allows you to reach and engage the community around you is becoming really, really important and powerful. Not only can you do that, but imagine sharing meal choices. We were talking with a group the other day who have been struggling with their kitchens and their meal choices. So hayylo can help your team share that information, track preferences for customers, and it's about, again, empowering your teams to do this on behalf of your customers and the customers to be involved themselves. It's a great way to engage everyone. When we looked at everything that's happening at the moment, and I'll wrap up now, communication is so important at a time like this. You know, we would love to be able to fix this situation that we're in really quickly, but whilst we're in it, what we can do is change the way we react to the current situation and how it's changing our day-to-day lives. It's great to think about everything that we're doing now as this crisis has forced us to think about things, but think about them in a long-term view with your business and say, you know what, the world's changing, it's changed rapidly. How should we harness some of this, and what can we do to support the communities around us ongoing? The biggest thing that I want to say is think about optimizing the way your teams work. Think about reducing some of the back and forth, and think about new ways of communicating in and amongst your teams. And we've just showed you a few today, because all of the fluidity and the way in which you communicate in and amongst your teams, customers and community has a huge impact on your team's availability and ability to do the core work that they want to do. There's some great new ways of thinking that are coming out, and it's key to partner with a technology company and consultancy groups and a whole range of different groups that can help you unlock your creativity and deliver the things that you guys want to do for your customers. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Hasi. I hope that was provided some insight around what some groups are doing around the country. Yeah, I welcome any questions that you guys might have.
Thanks, Greg. Before I jump into some of the questions, I also want to highlight some of the support and assistance that is available to providers that's out there in terms of implementing some of these newer technologies or the communication tools that is available to them. Department of Health recently announced the Business Improvement Fund, which was recently released about maybe a few weeks ago. So the Business Improvement Fund is essentially to improve the current business processes or even to implement new technologies, given the current crisis or even the previous crisis that Australia faced in terms of bushfires as well. So that being the key focus of the fund, there are also other options for providers in terms of transitioning the business to a new provider, or even at the unfortunate circumstances of actually closing down a business as well, any expenditure that's related to the administrative components to it. So we do have some information available on the screen right now in terms of making sure if you're eligible or not. But what we'll also do is actually circulate some of the information later on following the webinar. If you do like to follow up and find out more information about the Business Improvement Fund, or even to figure out if you're eligible and to see what information is required for the application process, please do reach out to us. And there's a lot of information that is available out there too. Happy to guide you through any information as needed. But getting back to you, Greg, I do have 3 questions in terms of the platform itself. So based on the work today that you guys have done and the communication that you have enabled with the families, the community, what are some of the feedback you've gotten with regards to the engagement experience you have created?
Yeah, so over the last few years, we've rolled it out to quite a few thousand people across the country. A couple of major use groups. We have customers themselves or clients, but another larger group of people that we have is the family members or the primary family contact or the primary carer. So some of the feedback from them has been really great. So by having access to this information and being able to see into the lives of their loved one, they don't have as many questions for the aged care provider, which is helpful to the provider themselves. Number 2, they feel more connected to their loved ones. And I guess in a moment now where we've got social distancing and social isolation is increasing, having that connection and that ability to understand what's happening inside the residential facility or inside someone's home if they're in the community whilst we're all at a distance is really, really powerful feedback. There's one particular story about a lady whose husband had dementia, and she was afraid that when she went on holidays, she would come back and he wouldn't remember her. Wow. So while she was away, the provider was sharing insights, and it was a way for her to remain connected and also go on that holiday. Less relevant for now because we can't go on holidays, but it really fuels a lot of connection, which is really.
That is such a good feel-good story, actually. In terms of, let's say, the providers would like to implement hayylo as soon as possible, what is a reasonable timeline they should be expecting given the sort of current circumstances as well?
Yeah. One of the things that we've done over the last couple of weeks was we've added 5 new team members over the last couple of weeks because we really want to help providers get set up really quickly. So we've got a fast track plan at the moment. It really only takes a couple of weeks to get set up. I'd say around about 2 weeks. Once the team is set up, they can start engaging their customers and the community and get a feel for it. It's really, really powerful because it doesn't require such a significant amount of resource from the provider team as well. So we try and help with a lot of that. Yeah. Yeah,
that was going to be my second question in terms of resourcing, but that's great to hear given, everyone's so busy at the moment trying to sort of hunker down in terms of the work that they have. That's great news. Look, Greg, that's most of the questions I have for today. And thank you for, spending some time with us. Really appreciate your time. If anyone has additional questions, we will put up our contact details towards the end of this webinar. So there will be a slide with information from Greg and Greg's team as well, so you can get in touch with them directly. And if there's any other questions for the Bentleys team, please feel free to get in touch with us, as we would love to help as much as possible. Look, thanks again for everyone joining us. Wishing you everyone the best as we deal with this current impact of COVID-19. but hopefully we'll come together towards the other end. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.